Could we speak about the aim of this exhibition and compare it to the one at Centre Pompidou?
Well, I think every exhibition tries to take a different perspective to add to the scholarship. And for us, it was really important to almost go back to the drawing board, just to try to see as much as we could. So we saw really hundreds of work and try to reassess the work. And what our priority was really we owned, the museum acquired the jungle in 1945, but at the end, Lam was only known through that painting. And we wanted to make a case that, no, he's worked with scale way before that and way after that. So we spent a lot of time looking at the Spanish year, we spent a lot of time looking at the post-war, and try to really build a trajectory. And the jungle is one of the many steps through the exhibition itself. Another thought that was important for us was to think about scale. Lam made some very large painting from the early 30s to the early 70s. So it was important for us to put them back at the center and to ask ourselves, why do those big paintings look so different?
But why is Lam important?
So why is important? Because he defined a style that is purely his own. He thinks about, he really paints on paper, he draws on canvas. So there is a hybridity in Lam. From the very beginning, the first large work, the Spanish Civil War, behaved like a painting.
But where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
Cuba?
No, before that, Cuba, sure, he was born there, but he moved out of Cuba very early, but also necessity. When he's in Spain, he doesn't have any money to buy canvas, but he has ambition. He wants to make a mark. He wants to do something that would belong to the thing that he admires, that he discovers in Madrid and Barcelona. So he's going to resort to paper, and he's going to invent really a new style, a new process that's going to stay with him throughout really the decade.
But he's really impressed by African language.
He comes with those cultural roots. In fact, he really discovered African art more in France, paradoxically,
really?
than he does that he did earlier on in Cuba. And I think what really make Lam so distinctive is when in 1939, because of the war and the German troops marching into Paris, he kind of has to escape, he has to flee. So he takes a boat from Marseille, and not unlike all his friends from Breton and Lévi-Strauss and all those people, he can't go to New York, he can't even go to Mexico, because his father was Chinese. He was a black man, his father was a Chinese. And in the States, there are very tough quota of Chinese immigration at that moment. So he's rejected, so he has to go back home, which is what he thinks the worst thing that can happen to him. He just spent 20 years in Europe with all those extraordinary artists, those poets and so on. So he finds that at home in a very, in a country that he had a bit forgotten, that became even poorer over the last decade. And he's going to reinvent himself there. He's going to reconnect.
It's between the 40s and until when?
In really 41 to, he's going to stay in Cuba until the very late 40s, early 50s, so throughout the war. But he has really nothing, he lost that connection with the European modernity, and he has to blend that with what influenced him there in Cuba. And it can be very simple things. It can be the vegetation around him, this kind of tropical nature of the country that you see appearing within his work. But also his work takes a much more political edge. It's really become about this post-colonial world. How can you just reassert a style that is both yours, meaning part of where he was born and the country he was raised, but also what he has acquired, what he has learned over the last decade. This kind of modernity that changed completely what art looked like in the past 20 years.
And do you think that his language is influenced by Chinese culture?
So it's a good question. His father had a big influence on him. His father most probably was an elderly man when he was born, about 80 years old, and he was someone who was both very sophisticated individual, and he taught Lam many key things that he's going to keep throughout his life. But did Lam had really an understanding of Chinese art? Most probably not so much.
Or Chinese culture.
Chinese culture,
We
but
can't
less.
see much if we look, for example, at this very special painting that was not shown since when, you said?
Well, that hasn't been shown since 1944 in New York.
This is very
It's one
unique.
of the very first work that he makes when he arrives in Cuba. Most probably just before, or he's just starting the jungle at the same time. And you see that there are references that really still come from Spain, and clearly there's still a bit of Matisse in that work.
Yes, some patterns.
That Matisse, he will meet Matisse in the late 30s when he's in Paris. And don't forget, Lam is 30 years younger than Matisse. So it's really a much younger generation that's going to take that influence
is there
to translate it into something very unique.
There's nothing Chinese.
There is nothing directly, most probably, Chinese.
So where could we find China's?
So you'll find moments in Lam when he starts traveling again. You'll find when he's going to think about the landscape. He's going to think about when he's going to get very close to abstraction. When his hands just suddenly become almost abstract. So that kind of relationship almost to calligraphy, or that capacity he has to just draw line, in an extraordinary way, without almost any interruption. So that the gestures, the skill, is something that might reconnect him to his Chinese father.
Merci.